taken off. They are doing really good. Started to grow. I did germinate a second start on those, and they have come up. So these are the little ones down here. These are the ones I had started inside, and they are doing really well. They've started to attach themselves to the trellis, and I'm excited to have something grow up the trellis. Okay, so the one cucumber you can see there, the one leaf, it's, where's my finger? There we go. So this one right here, that leaf kind of all shriveled up and is dried out. There is some yellowing on the other cucumber beside it. Just watching for any pests on that, but the rest of it seems to be doing okay. So I treated them with some BT and diatomaceous earth, and haven't really noticed any change in them over the last week. So I'm thinking it might have been the cold that we had the one night, and that one leaf was just affected. So we are watching that. The beans beside it are doing really well. My cherry tomatoes are the tallest. That one big one there is doing really well. The peas here on the edge of the cattle panel trellis are doing really well. They've really started to take off and grow up. I did do a row of radishes right here at the end. So I think those are the French tip, French white. I don't know, they're red with the white tip. And then in behind that first row of radishes, I did a daikon. They're the white Asian type radishes, so they are coming up really nice and look really good as well. First issue that I've been having was with the squash. The one squash plant I noticed was starting to really wilt and look kind of sickly, and I thought, oh, something is getting to it. So I googled it and watched some YouTube videos on what could be happening to my squash plants, and the prominent thing that kept coming up were the squash vine borers. But I thought, well, the plants really aren't big enough, and most of the ones I was seeing that were coming up online were fully grown squash vines, and they had these larvae in them. So then I got thinking back to the day that I planted that section of the garden. I opened up the compost bag that I had and made the spot, sort of mounted it to where I wanted the squash, and it immediately was covered in flies. I really didn't think much of it. I thought, well, it's compost. I guess they're attracted to the compost. Planted the peppers in the compost, and then a few days ago I noticed the wilting and this suffering, or something's happening to these plants. And from what I saw, the vine borer, if you squeeze the stem, you can kind of see the hole where the vine borer went in, or the stem will feel kind of mushy and there'll be like this sawdusty part to the stem where these vine borers went in. So I came out and I checked the stem. This is kind of what was left of the squash plant that I had. So it was in the ground like this, and the leaves had all wilted. Even the new growth had started to wilt. So I was checking the stem, and from what I could feel that was above the ground, it's still solid. So I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like the vine borer. But then researching it further, I came up with these root maggots. So as you can see, the root system from this plant, which was full when I planted it, is missing. It's totally gone. And when you squeeze the bottom part that was in the soil, it's really mushy and there's nothing really left to it, and the roots are gone. So what I came up with for this pest was the root maggots. Those flies that I saw on the compost had laid eggs, the eggs had hatched, and the larvae started eating the roots of these squash plants. So I wasn't able to salvage too much of the root, was gone off of these plants. So the treatment for that, just trying to see if there's mosquitoes. So the treatment for the root maggots is nematodes. So I picked up nematodes, I did the concentrate and added it to, I think it was 1.5 liters of water. So I used half the nematodes that I had and treated the soil, hoping that it would save my plants, but it doesn't look like it's going to. Like this is done. I did pick up some new squash plants to plant in the garden. I'm really hesitant to put them back in the same spot just in case those larvae are still in there, but I don't know really where else to put these squash plants. So this is how they started. This is how my plant started out to begin with. It was a pot. It has 3 plants in it. I might try and separate one of them off. I'll try maybe one of them back in that spot now that it's been treated and see if it survives, and then move the other plants to a different spot. I do still have a butternut squash that is a little bit wilty. I'm hoping the nematodes can get a hold and they eat the larvae of those root maggots. So, and save the roots for that plant. I did pick up another, I'll show you it. I did pick up another butter baby. So the one that's in there is buttercup. This is butter baby. So they're butternut squash, a smaller blend. And again, this one has 4 plants, and one of them is kind of off to the side. So I should be able to separate these out and I'll move these to a different spot. I'll try one in the same spot and see if that soil is able to recover from the root maggots. But my first pest in the garden. We'll see how it goes from here. I'll show you what's left of my my other butternut squash here. So that is how the buttercup squash is looking. So it's a little wilty. The new leaves are still growing okay, but there's a lot of wilt on this one leaf, and it does seem to be kind of flimsy. So I'm wondering if under the ground here, like when you squeeze the stem, it's still firm here, but it just doesn't seem to have a good hold there. So I don't know if those larvae have already destroyed the roots on that. I'm gonna leave it. It still looks okay, but that's how the other squash started out looking, was kind of wilty like that. Hoping that it does okay. I do have other ones to start just in case that one doesn't pull through. And this is the purple cabbage. I did put some diatomaceous earth on it, so that's what this white powder is. It's what's left on it from me putting some powder on it. It does get really wilty during the day from the sun. I did move it. It was up here with I remember I had the rhubarb, there was one tulip there, and then I had planted the cabbage in front of these Brussels sprouts, and I think it was just too hot and too sunny for it, if that makes sense. I don't really know. I've never grown cabbage before, but I moved it from there to this section back here in the garden, and it seems to be okay. I did kind of notice that there's one leaf that I don't know what happened to it, but it's one of the first leaves. So the rest of the growth is looking really good on the cabbage, and again, watching it for those root maggots to see if it's going to affect this cabbage or not, but it seems to be doing well. One of the kohlrabi I moved back here just to see if it did any different in the back. It's full sun right now, but it is more shaded. It doesn't get as much sun and as hot back in this section of the garden. Hollyhocks and silver dollars are still back here, just waiting for them to get a little more established, a bit bigger, and I will probably move some of them in and around different parts of the garden. So in behind the hollyhocks and the silver dollars, I have the sage, which is that tricolored sage, and the purple basil. right beside the huge patch that I have of oregano. I did harvest some of it and tied it up and hung it inside to dry. So we'll have some of that for our pizzas and sauces. And the chives, they are just about to flower, so they look pretty good. The chives, they've been here for a while. I had moved them from the front of the garden back here to the back, and they're the easiest thing I've ever grown. Asparagus, it's kind of flopped over, but as it gets bigger, it does kind of blow in the wind and gets really ferny. It'll establish itself this year and maybe next year, probably 2 years before we're harvesting any of the asparagus off that. I might try and just tie it up to this pitchforking rake that I have back there. So over here in this section is cauliflower, and these root larvae apparently can affect these as well, and these were planted that same day with the same compost, so I'm not sure if they've gotten affected by these root larvae or not. They seem okay for now. They do get a little wilty during the day. I think it's just from the hot sun, but they're in the shadiest part of the garden, but we'll keep an eye on those. They were treated with the nematodes as well, but just trying to keep an eye on everything. Those are the row of sunflowers, and you can see, well, I guess you can't really see yet. I'll go over there and show you the dahlias have all come up, and they're getting really big, so I'm very excited about those. The Brussels sprouts, they are doing okay. There's nothing that seems to be really happening with those. They've gotten really nice strong stalks on them. The leaves, I think they're supposed to be curled like that. I'm not sure if that's an effect of a deficiency or not, but I do have some fish emulsion. They do need lots of nitrogen, so maybe I'll give those some of that tonight and see if it kind of straightens out their leaves a bit, but maybe they're supposed to be like that. I don't know. So this is the section of the garden that I have the dahlias planted, and all of them have sprouted except for one. I'm still waiting for one of them to come up, but most of them, you can see this one here, have really taken off. They are taller than the little name signs that are in the ground, and they're doing really well. The lilies, which are all around the outside, I did have some of those red lily bugs on them, but soap and water and treated those, and they've done really well. No new insect marks on any of the new growth on any of these lilies, and they should be flowering soon. You can see where originally the lily beetle had chewed some of the leaves, but I haven't seen any today. Usually every 3 or 4 days there might be one that kind of shows up, and I treat it with the soap and water it's a bit of oil with some soap and water in a spray bottle, and you spray it on the beetle, and it takes care of them. All organic, and yeah, we've had some really good luck with that. You can still see some of the diatomaceous earth that's on some of these lilies still, but they seem to be doing really well. Raspberries, they have done well. Lots of green growth on those. I did put some diatomaceous earth on it because, well, there you go. You can see these moths are laying their eggs all over them, but it's hard to control them on this plant because it is so big, but just waiting to see if I'm going to get any blossoms on this to hopefully get some fruit. Oh, there's one. So that's one of the first blossoms that's coming for our raspberries. So we are just the beginning of June, and hopefully we'll have raspberries in a few weeks. I don't see a lot of blossoms on these this year yet though, so we shall see how many raspberries we actually can get. Oh, I think that's another blossom there on our raspberries, but not a whole lot happening with the raspberries. Lilies, like I said, are doing really well. Even the new ones that I planted, they are doing really well. The anemones, my other garden, some of the anemones have a little bit of blossoms on them. I have a couple purple ones and a white one. Nothing on this one yet that I can tell, but hopefully that one might turn into a blossom there, but I don't see any blossoms on this yet. Strawberries, I have some blossoms on those. So those were the ones in the pots that I had originally moved from this garden over here. That had 6 strawberry plants in it, and that was it. So I dug up the 6 strawberry plants, put them in pots until I got the garden ready, and have moved them in here. We had some blossoms on a few of these strawberries, and one of them had started a fruit, but I don't see it now. No, I think it's gone. These squirrels, even on those strawberries that we have in those hanging baskets on the patio, the squirrels are getting to those strawberries before we even have a chance to get them. So it is what it is with our squirrels. The sunflowers, that's our row of sunflowers, they're doing great. And the zinnias, they've started to come up, the seeds that I started, but the 6 that I started indoors are doing really well. And beside the row of zinnias are bachelor buttons. They've all germinated and have just started to come up. You can see the row of them there. Behind the bachelor buttons, I moved the nasturtiums. So the nasturtiums were here where I ended up putting the cauliflower. So I moved them to just here, and we've got some good germination on a couple of those. I did plant some garlic. I know it's not really the right time of year to start garlic, but I stuck some garlic cloves in the ground just to see how they grow, and they have come up just in the last couple of days. So there's 2 there, and then another one, and one back there, and then I've got this tiny little squirrely one that's just starting there. And one of the nasturtiums ended up over here. I don't know if I'll keep it there or not, but it's doing okay. Shallots went here, and nothing's happening with them yet. I thought they would have come up about the same time as the garlic, but it doesn't seem to. Nothing's happening with those. The bok choy, doing really well. Not sure if it is going to do well with the heat that we're going to have. And then the 3 kohlrabi plants. I have no idea what to do with kohlrabi, but I thought it'd be fun to grow, so we're growing it. Radishes. So I think some of these radishes might almost be ready. I wonder if I should try one of these and see what it looks like. I'm hesitant to pull one out. Let's do it. No, they are not even close to being a radish yet. So we will leave those in there to grow a little bit longer. Lettuce. So most of the lettuce germinated. It's just a small little row of lettuce, and I'll use those just as spring mix, salad mix. So the onions, I've got like 3 that came up. I don't know why the onions really didn't germinate. Maybe they'll still come. Carrots, most of them have germinated and have started their second set of leaves. My second row of radishes, which were all planted at the same time. And that's the lettuce I started inside and the basil that I started inside, and they look awesome. So beside that are the peppers. We have green and red peppers. So the biggest ones here are the green peppers, and then these little ones are the red peppers. And they grow so slow that they really haven't done a whole lot, but they're growing, they're there. Those are marigolds, the jumbo marigolds. They have been loving the heat. And over here are the beans. So these are scarlet runners. So they will come up the trellis. And yeah, they look good. I have one leaf that I don't know if something got it, but we'll watch it and see what happens with it. So let's go in here and take a look at this cucumber. So that's the one leaf that I don't know what happened to it, but it's something. The rest of the plant looks pretty good. I don't really see anything. This one's kind of got it too, so I don't know. That looks okay. I'll just keep watching it. I sprayed them with BT just to get a head start on anything that might have come. And this little guy was growing over in another section. I think it's a cucumber, so I've moved it. I just moved it yesterday, so we will let him get established down in there. So they're in beside the zucchinis, and those are the rows of radishes.